I have mentioned this in the past, but I still feel weird covering an early access game. I think you need to get over that and not mention it again. All of this is to say I'm covering an early access game today. Let's get into it. Here's why I love Lunacid. This game is a first-person dungeon-crawling exploration RPG. It's heavily inspired by the Souls series and their predecessors. More on that in a bit. You're dropped into a well to be disposed of, so you're trying to get out. You run around exploring where you can, hitting things with melee weapons, shooting some bows and similar stuff, and blasting things with magic. I assume you've played an RPG, so you know the deal. The core mechanics are mostly straightforward and all well made. It feels good to beat up some snails and start throwing some spells out in the first area. There's some deeper mechanics and some really nice touches that were done for this game. The magic is really cool, some of which I'll talk about later, but the main thing I want to talk about now is lunacy. Lunacy is a stat that increases as you use your magic. It makes your magic stronger and earns you more experience, but you also take more damage. The really neat part is that lunacy is affected by the phase of the moon in the real world. This doesn't need to be this way, but it makes the magic system a bit more engaging. It also has a lore connection, I think, but I want to admit right here that I am no lore master for this game. I don't know who the Vidya for this game is, but it ain't me. Another cool thing is that some weapons can gain experience and evolve into different weapons, encouraging you to try out the different weapons. The nice thing is that every weapon that does this has an experience bar, so you can keep track of how close it is to changing, or letting you know you can skip a weapon with no evolution. The last thing to mention is what I think is the nicest thing Lunacid does. There are some old school sensibilities here. Basically just manual saving only at crystals and no checkpoints. But of course there are cool shortcuts, just like a good Souls-like. And there are secret walls, which the game lets you know by showing a question mark, like this. This is so nice. No wall humping and spamming the use key in this game. I would still enjoy playing Lunacid if it was just this RPG stuff. That's why I'm talking about the mechanics right now. And I really think that anyone who enjoys a first-person dungeon will like this right away because it's a really good time. Combat's fun, the exploration is interesting and kind to the player, and the level up feels satisfying. The gameplay parts are really nice and fun and all that, but I think the real draw to this game is the tone and the setting. I mentioned before that Lunacid is inspired by earlier FromSoft games, as in Kingsfield and Shadow Tower. See, it says so right on the Steam page. I haven't actually played these games, but from what I gather, they have a similar tone to the Souls series. So, to me, Lunacid feels very Dark Souls and Demon Souls. The world is covered in an evil fog, and everything goes wrong. Humanity has a bad time. A way the world copes with this is by throwing undesirable people into this well that the game takes place in. Most people tossed in here would like to escape, but things feel pretty hopeless, as it seems everyone is trapped down here. There is a lot of despair to be found in lore books and stories of attempted escape. It isn't all doom and gloom, however. The NPCs you meet are quite charming, and a few of them seem happy in their situation. There is a small hub area, Wing's Rest, with a few of them, and they all seem to be having a pretty nice time there. You even meet a few of them out and about in the rest of the game, and most seem to be having a surprisingly good time. I suppose their quests could go more places when the game is complete, and give everyone a tragic Dark Souls-style ending, but that isn't the case right now. Despite the cute NPCs, the game has an obvious horror influence. The dev, Akuma Kira, has worked on Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion and made Lost in Vivo. You see this influence in lore bits and enemy designs. An early place you wander into, the Temple of Silence, is filled with mummies with holes in their faces, which is pretty creepy. Look at them. Then you see the note that says the brain was removed, but it looks like it's pushed its way out from the inside, which is gross and cool. This area is also the first that necessitates a torch or other light source as it gets very dark. The draw distance and darkness adds to the spookiness, as things will fade into view from the darkness in front of you as you're wandering around. Then there are just creepy enemies besides the mummies, like floating horse heads that make creepy noises, invisible enemies that surprise blast you with spells, and rat queens, which are pretty unsettling, just to name a few. Plus, there are some creepy places, like here. This is a huge lake of blood. The way things appear out of the fog here makes me pretty uneasy. Have a walk around here yourself and tell me you're feeling perfectly peaceful. This kind of ties into a general feeling this game gives me. A feeling like something just isn't quite right with the world. Kind of a dreamlike feeling. There are some bits that play into this that I don't want to talk about because you should go explore this world and feel it for yourself. Trust me, it's worth it. I know some people may think, I don't want to have that feeling, which is fine, but I really enjoy media that gives me this feeling. It honestly reminds me of two of my favorite movies, It Follows and Come True, both of which have the same kind of feeling of a dreamlike world with things just being unnerving. The feeling that something is a little bit wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it? I love that feeling. I need more stuff to give me that feeling. Anyway, in the game, this feeling is partially created by the hostile environment. Most places aren't really safe for you. Enemies can be pretty tough, especially as you start. You have no idea the best way to combat them. You have to explore the world though, because there is no other way to get out of the well or find the interesting secrets. Also, knowing that you either have to push to find the next shortcut or work your way back to a save crystal when you're in a dire situation, the visuals add to this as well. The low fidelity nature of the graphics makes things kind of poorly defined. You know, the haunted PS1 aesthetic, which works really well for the feeling I'm talking about and a setting where you're dealing with otherworldly forces. Things are alien, Lovecraftian, you know? You can even mess with the visuals, lowering the settings or changing the filters for the perfect Haunted 1 PS feeling specifically for you. Magic can be part of this unsettling feeling too. The ties to the moon, both in-game and in the real world, and the lunacy stat, with the implications that magic makes you a little bit crazy, but it isn't totally a bad thing. There are some weird and creepy spells, but I'll only tell you about one so you can find more on your own. Lithomancy, which does this. There is no real purpose that I can see to it. Maybe that will come later, or maybe this mad wizard Abdul just wasn't quite right in the head. Now, while the visuals, locations, architecture, enemy, and lore really build this tone, I have to mention that the music of this game really ties the whole thing together. The music is incredible. There is no purchasable soundtrack at this point, sadly, but I hope that one day there will be, because this is one of my favorite game soundtracks ever. I feel like the music of every area really amplifies the feeling given off by the design and the theming. Like, the music is just the perfect match to the tone of every location. Wing's Rest has a track that is serene, with ethereal undertones that match how the place feels safe, but almost out of place compared to the rest of the game. When you enter the Temple of Silence, the music has an almost vacant feeling to it, which builds into eerie tones, reminding me of rituals and mysteries I can't understand. The Sanguine Sea has a track that's also kind of serene, fitting how vast and open this area is. But the other notes come in groups that hang with long pauses, building on that unease you feel from wandering a dark lake of blood, where things fade into view as you approach them. If I had better music theory understanding, I could probably better explain the reasons why the music does that, but I just know it in my bones when I listen to it. If you play this game, take a moment to really feel the feeling these tracks present to you. Just think that they are the final ingredient that takes this game from pretty neat to absolutely incredible. I don't have much else to say for this one. It's just such a good game. About the only things that I can think of that will impact your enjoyment of this are your willingness to enjoy something with a little old-school game sensibilities. I mentioned the no checkpoints, so while you're getting the hang of the game, you might die and lose a lot of progress because you didn't think to save for a while. There is no map, which means you can get lost pretty easily, and in some places this is very intentional. This one I feel more people are willing to deal with. Dark Souls doesn't have a map, but if you really wanted, you could just look one up. You might find enemies to be a bit tanky when starting out, and too weak when you're leveled up a lot. I guess how much you like that will depend on your love of grinding or feeling overpowered. My only real complaint about this game is that it is currently in early access, which is only a complaint because I have to wait for the full game to come out and I want to play it from start to finish right now. I do think that a game like this is better played when it is out of early access so you can get the full experience from intro to credits. Having all the secrets, quests, locations, lore, and story without having to wait for an update will give a really good gaming experience. However, this game is still really good in early access. That should be obvious from my only complaint is that I don't have more of the game right now. Plus, price tag is the icing on the cake. The game's only $7. I don't know if that will increase out of early access, but even if you just buy it now and wait for 1.0, you kinda can't go wrong. If you have any interest in a game like this, get this game. I also want to mention that I did not come close to showing off this entire game. There's quite a bit more than what I have shown, and I've seen most of it myself. But I want anyone who is interested to dive in and experience it without having everything spoiled for you. If you like what you've seen and what I have said, just give the game a shot. There are more Kingsfield-inspired games either coming out or out right now, but I feel this game stands far above the rest. I guess I should make a small disclaimer regarding early access to say if you watch this video in like a year or something, this game could be pretty different from what I described. I don't know what things will change and how, but right now if you're watching this video the day it came out, I completely recommend this game. If you like a solid first-person dungeon crawling game with immaculate tone, just go buy this game already. I mean, did you listen? I basically recommended this game 3 times in the final portion of the video. I really love Lunacid. Howdy y'all. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really went for it with talking about the tone and the music of this game. Sometimes the feelings a game fills you with are just as, if not more important than the actual gameplay. Luckily, this game has a really solid base for all that tone to rest on. Anyway, I do have ideas for the next game I'll be covering, and they are smaller and simpler than this one, so get ready for that. Oh, and I didn't really know a good place to squeeze this in, but Lunacid has a full wiki. It's kind of bonkers to me, but it shows that people really care about it, and I'm very happy about that. It was pretty helpful in working on this video. Okay, bye!